In the third year of my marriage to Harley Miles, which I had gone to great lengths to achieve, I found a novel about unrequited love in his study. The male protagonist was modeled after him, and the author was a newly popular writer who had just risen to fame recently. When he saw me from outside the door, anger flashed between his brows. He pointed at me and said, "Put it down and get out." I smiled, took out the divorce agreement that I had prepared long ago from my bag, and said, "Sure, sign it first." Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. This wasn't the first time I had seen this book. As soon as it became popular, someone brought it to me, pointed at the words on the title page, and asked nervously, "Marian, do you think the person she's talking about here looks like Harley?" I read it word by word and then said, "Yes." Why was I so certain? The male protagonist in the book had a nickname of HM, which had remained unchanged for years. He gave up the opportunity for guaranteed admission and went abroad during his senior year of high school. He was 184 centimeters tall, had a small mole at the outer corner of his eye, loved playing basketball and watching dance troupe performances because his mother was the leading dancer of a top domestic dance troupe. He always smiled with his eyebrows raised, held people high up in the clouds, and then said, "This is boring." The key point was that his surname was Miles, and he had a childhood friend who was the daughter of a family acquaintance. Many people loved him, and in those years, I was the only one who could stand by his side openly. Now, I was holding the divorce agreement, and he looked down at it. The anger in his eyes gradually faded away, and finally he said, "Is this interesting?" I had just been sitting at his desk and finished reading the entire novel. After 4 hours, my neck was already a bit sore. Hearing his words, I rubbed my neck, looked up, and said, "Yes." Then I said in an almost joking tone, "I won't leave until you sign it." He looked at me, furrowed his brows, and was about to say something when he was interrupted by the ringing of his phone. It was an old song. There was a line of lyrics in it that had appeared in that book. "I don't have the courage to keep chasing the back. It's as if I'm drinking ice water in winter and developing a stubborn illness in my heart." I clutched the agreement in my hand and saw Harley nervously clear his throat. There was a faint smile on his usually calm and reserved face. "Why did you think of calling me?" I took a deep breath. As he had said, I put down the book and then walked out. I was even considerate enough to close the door for him. After that day, I didn't see Harley for a long time. The trailer of the TV drama adapted from that novel suddenly started playing on a loop in the mall. My friend stood beside me, took a look, and said, "I heard that Harley invested in it." I said yes. The male and female leads were good-looking. He had carefully reviewed every aspect and put a lot of effort into selecting the actors. He was supporting her as if he wanted to make up for ignoring her all those years. "Hasn't he signed yet?" I shook my head and said briskly, "No, but it'll happen sooner or later." After saying that, I still couldn't help but send him a message. "I've put a copy of that agreement on every table in the villa. When you see it, remember to sign it." As soon as I sent it, I saw the words, typing, on the screen, but I waited for a long time and didn't receive his reply. It wasn't until evening that I received his message. "You haven't been home for a few days. What have you been doing?" I didn't reply to him. After a while, he said again, "Come home tonight. Let's have a good talk." I replied, "Okay." When I got outside the villa, I stood in the shadows and saw Harley's car stop. After a while, Harley got out of the car. He was alone. He lit a cigarette and then slowly raised his left hand and waved it in front of his eyes. The streetlight was very bright. He stood tall and slender, staring at the diamond ring on his finger for a long time. Then he pursed his lips and let out a sigh that was almost inaudible. I stood there and suddenly burst into tears. I don't know how long I stood in the cold wind before I pulled myself together and pushed the door open. Then I was surprised to find that Harley hadn't gone back to his room. He was leaning against the sofa in the living room, not covered with a blanket, with his eyes closed, as if he had already fallen asleep. I walked closer, thought for a moment, took a blanket, and wanted to cover him with it. But as soon as I leaned over, his eyes opened suddenly. We were very close. He furrowed his brows, then calmly pushed the blanket in my hand aside and asked, "Why did you come back so late?" It was rare for him to show me a bit of patience, but I had made him wait so long. I pursed my lips and lied, "Oh, I was meeting a lawyer. I thought about that agreement. I think I can actually get more. We've been together for 3 years. Now that we're getting a divorce, I should find a way to maximize my interests. Right. He was stunned for a moment. It took him a while to come back to his senses. As if testing something, he said lightly, "Is the lawyer you hired better than Jared?" Me? Of course not. Everyone knew that Jared, the great lawyer who had never lost a case in court, was Harley's best friend. Seeing my confused expression, he finally smiled and said, "This time I'll consider it as you being angry. Don't do it again." After saying that, before I could react, he went straight upstairs. It took me a long time to understand what he meant. He thought that when I said I wanted a divorce, I was just being angry. He clearly said he wanted to have a good talk with me. In the end, he still made a decision casually, as if I really loved him forever and couldn't live without him. I didn't go back to the master bedroom but sensibly went to the guest room. Before, I might have thought that sooner or later I could warm Harley's heart, but now I didn't have that thought at all, because his heart had already been warmed by someone else. No matter how hard I tried, it was all in vain. It would only make him annoyed. I didn't expect to see Laura so soon. She was wearing a proper suit and had light makeup on her face. She looked gentle like water, exuding an air of literary grace. When she saw that it was me who opened the door, an embarrassed expression appeared on her face. After hesitating for a while, she asked, "Is Harley here?" I nodded and then found her a pair of slippers. "Yes, he is. Come in and wait." She was reluctant to come in for a long time. "I'll just wait outside." In this way, she somewhat overlapped with the female protagonist in that book. Shy, taciturn, and unknown. I smiled and took the initiative to reach out my hand. "Hello, Miss Lynn. I'm Marion." She pursed her lips, and it took her a long time to shake my hand. This scene, as it fell into the eyes of Harley who had just woken up, somehow seemed to him that I was being aggressive. He walked over and stood in front of me, and said to the petite figure opposite, "Did you come to find me?" She said yes, that she wanted to thank him and had specifically asked someone for his address. It's just that she didn't expect. She didn't finish her sentence. She secretly glanced at me. She didn't expect that I, Mrs. Miles, would also be here. Originally, I should have pretended not to understand and casually brushed it off. Or, I could have lost my temper and accused her of destroying my family and being a complete mistress. But I didn't do either. I just raised my eyebrows slightly and said, "Oh." Then I waved my hand indifferently and said, "It's okay. It's okay. You two talk. I'll leave right away." After saying that, I specifically repeated, "It's really okay. Harley and we're getting a divorce soon." An incredulous look appeared in Laura's eyes. There was also a hint of uncontrollable excitement in her expression. As for Harley, he looked at me and his eyebrows slightly furrowed. In fact, after I left, I had nothing much to do. My friend sighed and shook me, looking angry and disappointed. "Come on, Marion. She's practically come into your home, and you're not only not making a scene, but you're also making room for them. Is there such a magnanimous wife like you?" I don't know if that guy Harley should cry or laugh. I thought he should be overjoyed and probably even laugh out loud in his dreams. My not pestering him was really the best thing for him. Thinking this way, I said it out loud. My friend said, "I should have advised you back then. You shouldn't have flown into the fire like a moth." I murmured, "I regret it too." She didn't hear clearly. "What?" I didn't repeat it but said, "My drama is about to be released. Remember to help me promote it then." She said in surprise, "So soon?" Yeah, this was the first drama I had prepared as the main producer, and it was of great significance to me. Harley and I got married through an arranged marriage. Of course, these two words were actually not accurate, because when you think about it carefully, it was me who, relying on the humble friendship between our parents, had been sticking to his side since we were children. I just couldn't be shaken off. My family and the Miles family were no longer on the same level. But when we got married, for the sake of a good reputation and the face of the Miles family, it was specifically stated in the entertainment news that the Miles and Fong families were getting married, and the couple was a perfect match in terms of looks and talent. It was once regarded as a beautiful story. So everyone forgot that Harley had actually never had feelings for me. He was willing to marry me just because I had tricked him. At a family banquet of the Miles family, I stayed in the room with him for a whole night. When others found out, everything that should have happened and everything that shouldn't have happened had all happened. Before that, Harley had regarded me as a younger sister. He never expected that I would do such a thing. So later, on our wedding day, The MC asked joyfully on the stage. Mr. Miles, do you want to marry Marion as your wife? Spend your life with her, love her, and be loyal to her? He didn't answer but raised his eyebrows and, in full view of everyone, said a word that I would never forget in my life. At our wedding. He stood aside and watched a farce that belonged to me. The MC was stunned and then asked me the same question. I blushed nervously. Feeling uneasy, I quickly reacted and said, I do. Since then, I had become a laughingstock in that circle. But I brought this upon myself. Who could I blame? Now I just hope that it's not too late to mend the situation. Recently, a question has been spreading wildly on the internet. It came from Laura's novel. What's the situation between you and the person you had a crush on? Someone posted a photo of their partner beside their pillow at 3 a.m. and added a caption. We've been married for 5 years. Some people said that they no longer had any contact. They met once the year before last, and the graceful young man in their memory had developed a beer belly. There were a lot of people laughing in the comments. Of course, one answer was pushed to the top. It received a lot of likes. He said that she gave him a divorce agreement and wanted to divorce him. When I saw it, I suddenly smiled. I sighed at how big the world was and that such a coincidence could actually happen. This question was very popular. In the end, it was all about promoting that novel. Those years of having a crush on you was suddenly brought into the spotlight. You could imagine how much effort Harley had put in, and the drama I had worked on as a screenwriter, which many people had been looking forward to, suddenly became neglected. The female lead who knew the inside story called me. She asked me, Ms. Marion, aren't you and Mr. Miles a couple? Why isn't he helping you but instead helping someone else? My heart skipped a beat, and I didn't know how to answer. In the end, I could only tell her, it doesn't matter. It hasn't been released yet. Right. But after hanging up the phone, I still couldn't help but sigh. I knew that when Harley took action, there was no reason for failure. If he wanted to support Laura, then she would definitely become the top and be at the height of her popularity. On the day, Those Years of Having a Crush on You was released, it quickly became a trending topic. Netizens were deeply engaged and felt sorry for the female lead's silent dedication. In short videos, various interactions between the male and female leads were also edited out and accompanied by music, and the click-through rate soared. The restoration degree was very high, and it was obvious that a lot of effort had been put into the original work. So, soon, it was rumored that this drama was personally adapted by the person in charge of the Miles family. He was so busy, yet he was willing to do something that he had never done before, even in a field he had never been involved in. It didn't stop him from achieving the best results. No wonder the book in his study seemed to have been read thousands of times. I could imagine it. After he finished his work at the company every day and came home looking very tired, he would sit at his desk, open that book, and carefully run his fingers over every word on it. Through those sentences, he would recall the past that he had ignored. Then, after careful consideration, he would put pen to paper and think about how to present those things better on the screen. Sigh. What could I do? Not long after, Harley registered and authenticated his Twitter account. He personally forwarded the drama promotion and, at the end, also marked Laura. It was concise, looking forward to its great success. This was tantamount to confirming the rumors. Harley and Laura. One was the Resolute Group president, and the other was the rising new writer. It was hard not to envy them. Their CP was hyped up for a while, and no one cared that my drama was also released on the same day and failed quietly. The partners who had originally wanted to discuss the script with me also changed their minds one after another. That night, I opened the chat interface with Harley. Our chat was still at the point where he said he wanted to have a good talk. I replied, okay. Since then, there had been nothing else. When I scrolled up again, I suddenly realized that it had all been me playing out the scenes on my own. On my birthday, I asked him if he could spend it with me. He said he had something to attend to, but I remembered clearly that on that day, I bought a cake by myself. At the entrance of the cake shop, I saw Harley holding a bouquet of flowers and giving them to Laura. That should have been their first reunion after being apart for many years. She asked playfully, which was rare for her, if we hadn't met this time, you would have forgotten that you have a classmate like me. Right. He was stunned for a moment, as if attracted by her. What are you saying? These flowers are for you, as a celebration of our long-awaited reunion. They had a long-awaited reunion. Harley and I had always been sharing the same bed but having different dreams. I carried the cake and hid away in a hurry, crying until I trembled. When the drama was at the height of its popularity, someone found the report of my marriage to Harley. Come on, who's shipping this couple? Mr. Miles already has a wife. With just one sentence, there was a huge uproar on the internet. Some people started to boycott the drama. The original author is interfering in someone else's marriage under the guise of unrequited love. How can you guys tolerate this? Some people said that Mr. Miles didn't have a good relationship with his wife. They guessed that they had already divorced. Otherwise, why would he have personally forwarded that Twitter post? I left a comment under that Twitter post. Yes, I am Harley's wife, but we have already divorced. Overnight, my number of followers skyrocketed. Netizens left me messages one after another, asking about the inside story. Some pitied me, while others took pleasure in my misfortune. They said that Marion was reaping what she had sown. The video of that wedding was also dug up, and everyone finally realized that I had schemed against Harley. Otherwise, how could I have become Mrs. Miles? I read through the comments one by one, and finally, I turned off my phone and went to sleep. Early the next morning, when I turned on my phone, I was shocked. Harley sent me a message. Divorce. Did I agree to it? Seeing that I didn't reply, he called me several times in a row, while I was in a daze. There was a knock on the door. I looked through the peephole and saw Harley. My heart skipped a beat in surprise. This was an apartment I bought outside on my own, and I hadn't told him about it. How did he know? After thinking for a moment, I opened the door. He stood outside, looked me up and down, and then curled his lips coldly. It's in chaos outside because of you. But here you are, sleeping until late in the morning. I turned around and walked into the room, ignoring him. Aren't the words I said the truth? He was quiet for a while, and his voice was a bit low. I said, stop making such jokes. I sat down, picked up the remote control beside me, and turned on the TV. Coincidentally, it was Laura's drama. It had already reached the part where the male and female leads reunited after many years, and the male lead was attracted to the female lead and started to pursue her. The two of them hugged in the rainy night. He sighed and stroked her sideburns. The umbrella completely sheltered her, but half of his shoulder got wet. It's all my fault. I didn't look back at you properly back then. Could this be the words that Harley wanted to say to Laura? I looked up, ignoring Harley's not-so-pleasant expression, and said word by word seriously, I want to divorce you. I'm not joking. It's not fake. After my words fell, he stared at me, and his expression changed. Finally, he said slowly, what? Is Jared willing to look back at you? So you can't wait to separate from me? My face suddenly turned pale, and I finally remembered a piece of the past that I had almost forgotten. Jared was 1 year older than us. He was calm and reserved, and he had been determined to become a great lawyer since he was a child. I was afraid that others would find out my feelings for Harley, so I often used the excuse of looking for Jared to find him. I asked him about the questions I didn't know how to answer. I asked him to play with me. Later, I woke up in the same bed as Harley. He looked at me with disgust and asked, what do you think Jared would think if he saw this scene? I was a bit confused and just instinctively said, don't tell him. With just these 5 words, he seemed extremely angry. Suddenly, he seemed to remember something. This room was supposed to be occupied by him tonight. I really didn't know. I looked at him blankly for a moment. After all, I had followed him here and didn't know who was supposed to live here originally. But he had already pressed my shoulder, leaving a noticeable mark, and laughed. Marion, what do you take me for? It turned out that from a long time ago, he had thought that I liked Jared. Last time, when I said I was going to hire a lawyer, he mentioned Jared just to see my reaction. For 3 years, he had always held it in. Only at this moment did he ask me this question. I felt a bit ridiculous and also a bit tired. I tilted my head back and looked at him. The long-lost sourness welled up. You're overthinking it. I've never liked Jared. The person I liked, from beginning to end, was only him. Laura's unrequited love finally saw the light after many years, and the surging emotions in my heart every time I saw this person could only be buried in the sand along with time. Harley's hand suddenly tightened, and he asked, what? Then I gathered my thoughts and interrupted his words. And what you need to do now is to sign the agreement. I was joking before. I didn't go to meet any lawyer that day. The terms will be according to the agreement I gave you. I only want the share that I deserve. I don't want us to end up in court one day. He pursed his lips and looked at me without saying a word. I added, it will be ugly, Harley. Before long, the trending topic on Twitter was removed. I didn't care about it anymore. Instead, I started a new project. I was so busy that I was in a complete mess, until I met Jared at a banquet. To be honest, since I got married to Harley, we hadn't seen each other for a long time. The last time we met was downstairs at Harley's company. He asked me, "Are you here to find him?" I nodded and said that I was going to go back to the old mansion of the Miles family with Harley. Mrs. Miles personally called me and asked me to wait for Harley at the company and go with him. Jared sighed. He's not in the company today. Don't you know that? As he spoke, he smiled. I came to find him, but I also missed him. I shook my head. He rarely replied to the messages I sent. Half an hour ago, on my way here, I sent a message to Harley, telling him that I was downstairs at his company and waiting for him to go home together. He didn't reply to me at all. He also didn't answer the phone. If I hadn't met Jared, I wouldn't have known how long I would have to wait there. That night, I scrolled through the moments posted by Harley's friend. It was a photo. Harley was putting a suit on a woman, being meticulous and patient. Although only his profile was shown, it was not difficult to see the tender light in his eyes. That woman was Laura. By that time, a long time had passed since my birthday. It was only when I saw the photo that I realized that I didn't know when their relationship had become so close. The caption on it read, "In memory of the first time young Master Miles brought a female companion." I enlarged the photo several times, turned off my phone, and when I wanted to look at it again, it had been deleted. When Jared saw me, he raised his eyebrows. "What? Are you waiting for Harley this time too?" I smiled bitterly. "No, I'm here to attract investment." Without the title of Mrs. Miles, it was much more difficult for me to pursue my career. I had also put in a lot of effort to attend this banquet. He held the wine glass and suddenly seemed to remember something, with a playful look on his face. "What do you think of me?" I was stunned and didn't react. "Oh, what do you think of me?" he repeated. This time, I reacted and looked at him carefully. To be honest, before hearing this sentence, I had never considered Jared. But in fact, although he hadn't taken over Jared's family yet, he mingled among various powerful and wealthy people and held a lot of capital in his hands. Without relying on Jared's family, just Jared himself had a very prestigious reputation. It's just that over the years, our interactions had gradually decreased until we became unfamiliar, and his relationship with Harley was too good. That's why I had overlooked this. But now, I really didn't need him. I really didn't want to have any more connections with the people around Harley. What's more, I had already used Jared to hide my feelings once before. I raised my glass and smiled. "No need. I've already found the investment." After a pause, I added, "I'm looking forward to the opportunity of cooperation in the future." His eyes darkened, and he clinked glasses with me and drank it all in one gulp. "Okay." As he spoke, he passed by me. "Oh, I almost forgot to tell you. Harley is also here. Look, over there." When we were talking here just now, he was watching from there all the time. "Are you really not here to find him?" I was stunned for a moment and retorted, "No." He gave me a meaningful look before leaving. After Jared left, I didn't look back in the direction he had indicated with his eyes but walked straight out of the hall. I had already secured the investment I needed. There was really no need for me to stay here any longer. But this place was a bit remote. I waited by the roadside for a long time but didn't get a taxi. My phone was also about to run out of battery. Just as I was about to lament my bad luck, a car stopped beside me. The car window rolled down, revealing Harley's face. "Noble and distant," he said. "Get in the car." I looked around and knew that if I didn't get in this car, I would probably have to wait for a long time. I just happened to want to ask him why he still hadn't signed the agreement. Just as I was about to nod, I saw Laura in the passenger seat. She was very beautiful tonight, with an otherworldly temperament. Sitting together with Harley, they really made a handsome couple. At the moment, she was looking at me, and there seemed to be a hint of guilt in her eyes. My heart seemed to be suddenly gripped by something. I suddenly remembered. There was such a sentence in Laura's book. She had once wondered whether she should go to worship Buddha, with the Buddha and the ancestors watching over her. Could she have more interactions with him, even if it was just sitting together? But during the 3 years of high school, the seats were changed back and forth. Between them, from east to west, from front to back, there was always a whole classroom separating them. Now, they could finally sit together. Just like the male and female leads in the book. They had a perfect ending. I shook my head. No. I'm still waiting for someone. Waiting for whom? I didn't know anymore. Harley seemed not to have heard me. He pursed his lips straight, tapped the steering wheel, and said, "Don't you want me to sign the agreement? If you don't get in the car, I won't sign it." As he spoke, he added, "I'll never sign it." What he said was really similar to the sentence I had said before. "I won't leave until you sign it. If you don't get in the car, I won't sign it. I'll never sign it." In the end, the only connection left between us was just that little bit. I sighed and opened the car door. Okay. But clearly, I had gotten in the car. Yet for some reason, Harley's expression became even colder. Perhaps our relationship was too awkward. The car drove for a long time, and no one took the initiative to speak. It was as if the one who spoke first would be the one to admit defeat. It was Laura who finally broke the ice. She said, "I won't go to dinner with you guys. Just drop me off downstairs at my place later." Her tone was very familiar, and she was very proper in her words. I then realized that they had originally planned to go to dinner together after the banquet. It was just because of my appearance that they had to separate. Harley nodded. Okay. After dropping Laura off at her home, he asked me calmly, "What do you want to eat?" I said, "I'm not hungry. Go back to your place. I'll take my things away. And you can sign the agreement, by the way." He thought for a while. "I'm not going to sign it." I was confused. "What do you mean?" Going back on his word wasn't Harley's style. He stopped the car, turned around to look at me, and there was a look in his eyes that I couldn't quite understand. "The person you've liked all along is me." Right. He was so smart. Yet he had only guessed it now. At that moment, I laughed. I laughed so hard that tears almost came out. I nodded and didn't deny it. Yes. Yes. Marion had liked Harley for many years, even earlier than Laura. His tone was heavy. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. I thought." He didn't continue. Instead, he let out a sigh that was almost inaudible. Just then, my phone rang. After I answered it, I looked at him apologetically. "Let's talk about this next time." "Okay. I still have something to do." He pursed his lips. "Okay." Not long after, those years of having a crush on you came to an end. It received both good reviews and high ratings. The drama production team specially organized a thank you party. There was a live broadcast of the scene on the internet. I watched it from beginning to end, just like not long ago, when I finished reading the whole novel with Harley as the prototype in the study. At the thank you party, Laura, as the original author, also attended. She bowed sincerely to the people present. With her eyes red, "The success of this drama is thanks to everyone here. Thank you all." A reporter held up a camera and asked her, "It's rumored on the internet that the male protagonist in the original work actually has a prototype. Is that true?" She paused and then smiled. "Maybe." It was ambiguous but also thought-provoking. The people present were instantly excited and couldn't stop gossiping. Laura said again under the flashing lights, "Come to think of it, I also want to thank my benefactor. He helped me present everything in that book on the screen." The reporter asked again, "Is it Harley, the president of the Miles family?" "It's said that he's the biggest investor in this drama." Laura lowered her eyes and smiled shyly. "Yes, thank him. And I dedicate this book to my unrequited love." That night, the news that I was going to divorce Harley spread all over the internet. Everyone had their own opinions, and the argument was in full swing. Laura posted a Twitter message at this time. It was a back view. He seemed to be waiting for someone under the streetlight, wearing an exquisite and expensive long coat, with a straight back and a tall and slender figure. Netizens left messages one after another, wishing her to get what she desired. This Twitter post quickly became a trending topic and remained on the list for a long time. After that day, I rarely heard any news about Harley. Mrs. Miles did call me once. Her tone was very relaxed, and she was certain that our divorce was inevitable. In a condescending manner, she said, "Even if you two get divorced, you can still come and visit me and your Mr. Miles in the future." I smiled and agreed. "Okay, if there's a chance, I will." I don't know where she heard the news. In fact, that boy Jared is also quite good, and he likes you. In my opinion, you were just too extreme. You had to hang yourself on our Harley back then. If you had looked at others earlier, things wouldn't have ended up like this. I took a deep breath. "Auntie, who did you hear that from?" She let out an "ah" sound. It's spread everywhere that Jared has always had feelings for you. I replied that there was no such thing. She was silent for a while and then said okay. Finally, she was honest with me. I've always said that you're not suitable to be the daughter-in-law of our Miles family. I gave a hum and no longer tried to explain as I used to. Yes, in fact, before I got married, Mrs. Miles was nice to me. However, she regarded me as a junior but never considered me as a candidate for her future daughter-in-law. The incident between me and Harley was, in her heart, a scandal of me shamelessly clinging to the Miles family. I was extreme in my actions and not a good match for the Miles family in terms of social status. I wasn't worthy of Harley. So, over the past few years, she had never shown me a good face. When I visited, she was never welcoming, always indifferent. When talking about me, she mostly showed her dislike. No wonder she was so happy now. My parents didn't express any opinions on this. They had already said a lot and tried their best to persuade me before. Now that they saw me hitting a dead end, they didn't want to make me sad and just told me to go and relax when I had time. In this way, I almost thought that Harley had already signed the divorce agreement. After getting married, there were very few exchanges between Harley and me. He was reluctant to marry me. I also had a bumpy marriage and gambled with my reputation. The longest sentence he ever said to me was, "Marian, in the future, no matter what you want to do or who you want to be with, you don't need to tell me. I won't interfere in anything about you." The harshest sentence he ever said to me was, "Put it down and get out. There's no need to think carefully or recall. There's not even any regret between us." I officially made an appointment to meet him. I also brought that divorce agreement with me. In the luxuriously decorated restaurant, he was dressed in a suit, with a hint of loneliness on his face. He said slowly, "I thought the person you wanted to be with back then was Jared. So I've always resented you in my heart. Fulfilling Laura's wish was just because I saw my feelings for you in that book. I just happened to meet her at the banquet last time. I was stunned and couldn't come back to my senses for a long time. Finally, he sighed and looked at me. Give me another chance." "Okay," he said almost pleadingly. I shook my head. Forget it. He wouldn't know that the divorce agreement had been in my bag for a long time, and it took me a great deal of determination to put it in front of him that day. I said, "Even if there are reasons for all that, in any case, it can't change the fact that during our marriage, you protected another woman everywhere. You admired her, didn't you?" With just this question, he was left speechless. He had already fallen in love with someone else, but he himself didn't even realize it. After going through all this, he finally signed the agreement. The moment he put down the pen, I let out a long sigh of relief. He seemed to notice and actually smiled self-deprecatingly. I stood up, waved to him, and said, "Goodbye." That night, after taking a shower and lying in bed, my phone received a push message. It was the question I had seen before. "What's the situation between you and the person you had a crush on?" There was an update under the comment with the highest number of likes. "Just today, we got divorced." And she said goodbye to me. My hand stopped above the screen. Then I clicked into that person's profile. He had only posted 5 updates in total. The earliest one was 3 years ago. "Tomorrow is my wedding with her. But the person she wants to marry isn't me at all. I spent a long time choosing the ring. But she probably won't like it either." There was another one from a year and a half ago. "I kind of miss her." I thought about it. At that time, I went on a trip abroad and hadn't seen Harley for a long time. But when I got off the airport, he had already been waiting for me for a long time. I asked him cautiously, "How did you know?" He dragged my suitcase, turned his head to look at me, and there was an obvious smile in his eyes. "What? Don't you want to see me?" It was a very brief exchange, but it was a rare tender moment between us. "A year ago," he wrote, "it turns out that he also likes her. If it weren't for me, they would have already become a couple long ago. I read a book today and was deeply touched. I want to meet the author." Seeing this, I could be sure that this person was Harley. It's just a pity. The latest 2 updates had little to do with me. When he finally saw her, he sighed. "So it's her. I still have some impression. Also, maybe I should let go of myself and also let go of her." In Laura's book, it was written, "Parting from those we love, not getting what we desire. All the days and nights of her life will be spent in remembrance." He also said, "She has been through a lot these years." I put down my phone, walked to the window, and looked at the moon in the sky. Suddenly, I wondered, what about me? Were these years that I had tried so hard to obtain hard? Not long after this, I met Jared, and finally understood where the rumor that Mrs. Miles had mentioned came from. It was spread by him himself. I couldn't quite figure it out. Jared was always a steady person, and he didn't seem like someone who would do such a thing. He said to me, "I wanted to support you a bit and let people know that our Marion also has someone who likes her." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I asked him, "Are you going to get married in the future? Why did you do this?" He seemed to be seriously thinking about this question. It took him a long time to answer me. "You've been married, but it doesn't seem like you were very happy." Me, as expected of a lawyer. He always has a unique way of thinking. Seeing my expression, he smiled. "Of course, if it's with you, I don't mind giving it a try." I shook my head under his gaze. "We're not suitable. You continue to be invincible in court and then get married properly." He didn't expect such an outcome. After a long while, he sighed and agreed to me. Okay. Laura wasn't a local. As the spring festival was approaching, she was going home. The drama I had been preparing was just about to start filming, and I was going to Hengdian. We bumped into each other at the airport. She was wearing a scarf, and her small face was exposed. She greeted me, "Ms. Marion." I smiled and nodded. We sat down together in the airport hall. I saw the scarf around her neck. It was a men's customized one. It was from the brand that Harley used most often. Just now, he had personally sent her here. See, even if that banquet was just a coincidence, one day, he would definitely come to see her specially, send her off, and pick her up. She asked me, "Where are you going?" I briefly told her the purpose of this trip. After hearing it, she didn't speak for a long time. Finally, she took out a book from her bag. "This is my new book, and I don't plan to publish it publicly. I'm giving it to you." I looked at it and saw a sentence on the cover. "Meeting again after a long separation is a fortunate thing in life." I didn't accept it. Just then, the airport was announcing my flight. "No need. You'd better keep it for yourself. You really know how to play with all kinds of literature. Stop sighing about meeting again after a long separation. Isn't the most important thing to cherish the people in front of you now?" Her face turned pale for a moment, and she took back the book. "Okay, Ms. Marion will also have her own person in front of her." I nodded. "Okay." After her test received a positive answer, the smile on her face became more sincere. "Have a smooth journey." After this, I was busy with work and rarely went back. The day I heard news about Harley again, the film crew had just finished filming. They were going to set out a big cake. I ate it bite by bite. It tasted sweet and not greasy. Probably because the atmosphere was so good. Everyone said a lot of touching words, hugged each other, and finally, we talked about gossip together. The one from the Miles family is in the neighboring film crew right now. Did he invest in that drama? Seems so. He's been here for a while. After saying that, it seemed that they remembered I was there. So they didn't continue. I was in a daze for a while, feeling the stuffy temperature around me. I suddenly missed spring very much. It's easy to recognize the face of the east wind. All the colors of spring. Always spring. Harley is just a passerby. After it was over, I went back to the hotel. But I saw Harley downstairs. He seemed to have been waiting here for a long time. When he saw me, he let out a very soft sigh. Then he said, "Long time no see." I nodded. Okay. Neither of us could say any more small talk. I made a joke. "Did you come here to give me an invitation?" He pursed his lips and looked at me helplessly. "No." I wanted to say, "We." I interrupted him. "We." There's no we anymore. Mr. Miles. This is already the best ending now. I stepped back. They, the lovers, finally became a couple. Harley's Adam's apple rolled, and it seemed that he had a lot to say to me. I took a deep breath. As he had said before, I put down that book and then walked out. Then he reached out his hand, wanting to touch my hair. I took a step back. His hand missed, curled his knuckles, and then put it down, letting it hang by his side. Perhaps no one knows that many years ago, when I went to find Jared, in fact, he was always there and would talk to me intentionally or unintentionally. The free and easy young man would always look at me and then be in a daze. His earlobes would turn red quietly, but I didn't dare to look at him. So all these things faded away in the passage of time. Harley left. Half a year later, this drama was released and received an excellent response. The drama was broadcast for more than a month. On the day of the finale, I was invited to give a speech at my high school alma mater. When I stood on the stage, I saw a familiar figure in the audience. With just a glance, I looked away. By his side, Laura was sitting. This was where she had liked him for so many years. Now, revisiting this old place could be considered as living up to her youth. After the speech, I didn't stay any longer and directly left the venue. When I walked to the playground, a song was played on the radio station. I once had hopes, but there was no result in the end. Actually, we didn't leave anything behind.